Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood webinar series specifically designed for community early childhood councils. I hope that you are enjoying a beautiful Thursday afternoon like we are here in Central Kentucky. For the purposes of this presentation, we are going to be muting you throughout the presentation, but if you have a comment or a question that you would like to make, please hit *6 to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. This webinar, like all the other ones we have presented, is being recorded, so you will have the opportunity to go back and view it again via our website, which is www.kidsnow.ky.gov. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our webinar series today. And the first thing that you'll note is I am certainly not, this is not the voice of Amanda Flannery, who you are typically used to hearing. Amanda is away, and she sends her warm welcome or warm hellos, but she's out of the office doing some training today, so I'm stepping in. This is Joe Roberts. I'm the director of the Head Start State Collaboration Office here in the Governor's Office of Early Childhood, and I want to tell you that today we have a very, very special webinar presenter with us today. We have Heather Deering, who is the acting director of the Division of Family Resource and Youth Service Center in the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. Heather is going to be talking to us about a very exciting opportunity that many of you may have already heard about through your Friskies office, and that is the Born Learning Academies. Born Learning Academies was originally started as a Toyota product, a Toyota-sponsored product that really is an opportunity that emphasizes with families that every moment is a learning moment. I have a few updates that I'll be giving you at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Heather, and I'll do a real quick check. Also, I would encourage you that if you have any questions, you can utilize the chat feature, which is located in the bottom left-hand corner of your link box. We will be taking a look and monitoring that chat throughout the presentation and trying to answer your questions as we go. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Heather. Heather, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We certainly can.
Great.
Go right ahead, and if anyone has any questions, please utilize the chat. Heather, presentation's yours.
Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all of you who are on the call. It looks like we have a really great audience, and it looks like we have some of our center coordinators on here too, so I'm excited that you guys are on as well. And for those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm going to introduce myself in just a second, but before I do that, I'm going to just give you a quick rundown of what I'm going to talk about today, do some introductions. I'm going to do a general, kind of very high-level overview of what Family Resource and Youth Service Centers are, but I have a very strong feeling that most of you are going to know and be very familiar with our centers already. And then I'm going to do an overview of Born Learning Academies, both kind of their history and what we're going to be doing with them in the coming years. And then hopefully, time willing, we'll have some time for Q&A. And if we run out of time, because I have another meeting at 2:30, then I will certainly accept questions through email and over the chat feature. So as Joe mentioned, my name is Heather Deering. I am currently the acting director of the Division of Family Resource and Youth Service Centers at the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. I came to the division about 10 months ago. I came to the Cabinet actually 10 months ago. I was hired as a policy advisor to the Secretary's office working out of the division. And after the retirement of Mike Denny, my esteemed predecessor, I was asked to step in and fill in as the acting director. And for those of you who are wondering if that's going to ever be a permanent position, I still don't know. So we will let you know when I find out. So obviously, the Family Resource and Youth Services Centers very much predate me. I actually, when they were established, did live in the state of Kentucky. I left for a while but returned. So I have recently kind of become more familiar with the Friskies since I've been here and have just fallen in love with the program, and I'm so honored and excited to be part of it. So quickly, the history of our Family Resource and Youth Centers, which sometimes are called Friskies, sometimes are called Frisks. It just kind of depends on your preference, but oftentimes are not called their full name, Family Resource Youth Service Centers. They were established as a component of the historic CARA, Kentucky Education Reform Act in 1990. Friskies are school-based centers with that have a goal of helping and assisting academically and at-risk students succeed in their schools by helping to minimize or eliminate non-cognitive or non-academic barriers to learning, such as basic needs, mental health needs, etc. Schools where at least 20% of the student population is eligible for free or reduced school lunches are eligible to receive Frisk funding. And we have not, in the last several years, accepted any new applications for centers, but we do a round of continuing program funding for our existing centers. The mission statement of the centers is to create and sustain partnerships that promote early learning, successful transition into school, academic achievement and well-being, and eventually graduation and successful transition into adult life. So FRYSC to me equals FRC plus YSC. We have we have 821 centers throughout the Commonwealth in almost about 1,200 schools. And you can see the way that we break down our centers. For elementary schools, we have Family Resource Centers. Those serve students through age 12. And we have our largest number here of 425 FRCs. And then we have 272 youth services centers, which are found in middle and high schools and serve our students ages 13 and older. And then we have a smaller number of combined centers, 124 of those, and those can be found in schools that cross those traditional elementary, middle, high breakdown, so combined schools, middle, high schools, combos, elementary, middles, etc. Those have combined centers, and those are called FRYSCs. So those total our entire kind of spread of centers throughout the Commonwealth. So at the local level, our centers are locally operated. They are staffed by school employees. The way the funding works for the division and out to the centers is that education provides the funding to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, and then we then distribute the funds out to the centers. And so they're really funds to go into the schools to help support the schools with what those school communities need. They are strengthened by community partnerships and their ability to provide their programming and their services and referrals. And the goals at the local level is really to meet the needs of the children and families served by the centers to ensure that they have academic success. Each center really does offer a unique blend of programming and services. No two centers are the same, truly. It is about what that community needs. But there is some core components that we do have set forth in the establishing legislation. So for our Family Resource Centers, the core components are, as you can see on the screen, preschool, child care, after school, daycare, families in training, family literacy services, health services, and referrals. And then for our youth services centers, the core components are referrals to health and social services, career exploration and development, summer and part-time job development in high school centers, substance abuse education and counseling, and family crisis and mental health counseling. So those are the components that funded centers are expected to meet through their programming. In some cases, they are merely I won't say merely, they are the connector to those services that exist in the community, but in some cases and in some communities where those services don't exist, they actually are the service provider. So it really, like I said earlier, it really does vary center by center what programming and services are included in the centers at the local level. They are also they have an advisory council of both students and other community members at each center, so that the programming really is truly youth involved as well as community involved. Then you have the FRISCs at the state level, which is the division. Our division is housed here at the Cabinet for Health and Family Services in Frankfurt. The division essentially provides the following to the centers: the funding, governance of those dollars, administrative support, technical assistance, and training. We have a division staff of 5 central office people and 11 regional program managers who are responsible for those governance, support, technical assistance, training pieces in their regions. And they have anywhere from 80 to 100 centers in their regions. So that's kind of the quick and dirty overview of the Family Resource and Youth Service Centers. Like I said, I know most of you all are fairly familiar with that, given the population that you're working with. And you may be also very familiar with the Born Learning Academy. But what I wanted to do today was give you just kind of a quick primer on it so that you kind of know where it came from and then how we're going to be moving it and integrating it into the division and the centers throughout the state. So the Born Learning Academy concept is really an innovative approach that meets a critical need in Kentucky communities, which is early childhood parental education. And as Joe mentioned earlier, this is a Kentucky product, a proud Kentucky product that was developed and created out of northern Kentucky and then funded by a Kentucky business, Toyota. So this is something that we were very excited to really become a true partner with as we move forward in the Race to the Top implementation. The concept is that a school-based academy consists of 6 session workshops which provide parents with the tools they need to help their child succeed in kindergarten and beyond. The goal of the academy is to help prepare children for kindergarten by turning everyday moments into learning opportunities. Parents of young children prenatal to 5 are engaged in hands-on activities and discussion about what it means to be ready for kindergarten, and by offering them strategies they can use at home to maximize their child's early learning and development. The intentional placement of a school setting allows for parents and children to gain insight and a level of comfort needed to help transition those children into the school later. So ideally, them being school-based means that the parent becomes comfortable and familiar with that school community before their child even goes to school there potentially. It's also an opportunity for school leaders to get to know the families in their community that haven't yet sent children to school and their needs, kind of leading to a long-standing and positive parent-teacher relationships. So that's the concept. Here's the history. The Born Learning Academy, as I mentioned earlier, was developed in Kentucky by Kenton County Schools, early childhood faculty members from Northern Kentucky University, and United Way of Greater Cincinnati Success by 6 program to support kindergarten readiness. The intent of the Academy, as we mentioned earlier, is to engage families at the school system in the earliest years of the child's education. And the concept was really based off of the Harlem Children's Zone Baby College in New York that Superintendent Tim Hanner had learned about. Under his leadership, former Superintendent Tim Hanner in Northern Kentucky, Beech Grove Elementary there was selected to pilot the Born Learning Academy. And then it experienced such overwhelming success in its implementation that it was quickly expanded to 4 other school districts. And since then, the Academy has been highlighted by the United Way worldwide as a best practice. And you can find a lot of this history and background information at the link at the bottom of the screen. I think you could probably see that. So if you want more information, you can go there. But here are the basics. As I mentioned, it's a 6-session parent engagement project involving 1 night after school each month. There must be a strong commitment by the district and school leadership to be part of a Born Learning Academy. So, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we really, that has been made very clear to us in all of our education and training on this, that it can't be just kind of a concept that 1 or 2 people in the school can get behind. It has to really be a community, a full school community commitment. Participating schools must make a sincere attempt to recruit and build relationships with the very busy and overwhelmed parents and caregivers in their school community. And the school, when a school is selected as a Born Learning Academy site, they're provided with the materials training necessary to implement the materials and pre- and post surveys to measure improvement. The academies are excellent strategies for schools to reach out to and support school readiness. And the keys to success of the workshop series is really school ownership and effectively leveraging existing resources, keeping in mind that we can achieve more together than any one organization can alone. So as I mentioned, it was wildly successful after its first year of implementation. As it went from 1 to 4 schools really quickly, and that was just almost not quite 3 years ago. And after its first year of implementation, they did the pre- and post surveys, and what that told us was that parents' belief that the child's first year is the best time to start reading with them increased from 80 to 93%. Upon completion of all the workshops, the majority of parents, around 80%, felt very informed about supporting their young child's learning and development. And almost all parents increased their understanding of the importance of play, talk, reading, and singing with their children. Based on the post-survey data, the majority of parents, from 93% indicated that they planned on conducting the types of activities they learned more frequently with their children. And as you can see on the screen, 100% of parents indicated that the materials were helpful, that they'd used the materials with the child, and that they found the material helped them understand how their children could learn. So let me give you a really quick snapshot of how this started evolving just in 2012. The schools the counties in red there are the schools that were selected in the first round of Toyota funding, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about. And then this past year are the schools that were selected in the counties that were selected to implement academies in the 2013 round of funding. So you can see it's a good spread across the Commonwealth, but there was some uncertainty about how much more we could really spread, and we were uncertain about what type of investment would be occurring with the Born Learning Academies. And then we got some really good news in 2013. In June of last year, Toyota announced a doubling of their investment in the early childhood education in Kentucky to $1 million through 2016, which provides funding to United Way of Kentucky to expand the Born Learning Academies. So through 2016, Toyota Born Learning Academies will be established at 62 schools, and they're currently at 45. Excuse me. So that funding will be sustaining the current 45 Toyota Born Learning Academies and the new ones that they will be training and implementing in the coming year. And then at the beginning of this year, we got even more good news for Born Learning Academies, and we found out that Kentucky was selected as a recipient of Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge funds through the Governor's Office of Early Childhood. So they worked with the cabinet and with education to propose in their funding proposal launching 150 new Born Learning Academies across the state through the Division of Family Resource and Youth Service Centers. So primarily through family resource centers at the elementary level that are funded by here out of our division. And so that the plan will be to partner with the United Way to expand and implement with fidelity to the model and support all academies by 2016, no matter how they were funded, whether it's a Toyota Born Learning Academy or a Race to the Top Born Learning Academy. So that takes us to today. So here is our plan. We are going to work with existing Born Learning partners. We actually already are. We are working with United Way of Greater Cincinnati, United Way of Kentucky, Pritchard, and Governor's Office of Early Childhood, and Toyota, and the Kentucky Department of Education to really get this kind of transitioned and expanded to 150 academies in this over the next 4 years. The underlying intent of this expansion, as proposed in the Race to the Top proposal, is the full integration into our core components at the Division of Frisk within 5 years. So the way we see this is that any center who is selected to implement an academy will be basically on their way to meet the core component of the families and training component. We are also going to be incorporating the Strengthening Families framework into that expansion, and we will be hiring a dedicated staff person to support the academies. So as you can see there in the lower right-hand corner, we'll be selecting 25 academies for the next school year. In year 2, 25 more, and then in years 3 and 4, 50 more each year, getting us to our expanded 150. So we'll be well over 200 academies across the Commonwealth by 2017, including the Toyota-funded academies. So for year 1, this is what it looks like. If you haven't already heard, we are accepting proposals for the Race to the Top Born Learning Academies. If you haven't already heard, you may be a little bit behind the 8 ball because our proposal deadline is tomorrow at 5 p.m. But I think many of you on the call actually have already either submitted or we know that you intend to submit. So we're looking forward to seeing those. Eligible centers must submit those proposals by tomorrow at 5 p.m. And what we have stipulated in our materials was that the proposals must demonstrate need for and readiness to implement the academy. It must have school principal and district superintendent endorsement. They must already identify the members of their implementation team, and they must outline strategies for sustainability. Now, that's not the only thing they have to propose in their proposal. We have a few other questions, but those are really the tenets that we're really going to be strongly looking for when our proposal reviewers are taking their proposals into consideration. And so for this first year, once the 25 centers are selected for funding from the Race to the Top funds, they will actually go through training with those that have been selected to be Toyota Born Learning Academies. So the training will actually be co-occurring. They're going to be trained together and learn from each other. So that training will be delivered by the United Way of Kentucky, and then ongoing support to the academies funded from Race to the Top will be given by us, the Division of Family Resource and Youth Service Centers. So I know I'm kind of blasting through all this information. I feel like I'm talking a mile a minute, but let me give you a quick preview of our long-term plan. So in this next year, we're going to be working with United Way of Kentucky's Toyota Born Learning Academies. We're going to use their curriculum and for local implementation. And then we'll also be working with them for ongoing training throughout the year. We will also be recruiting new schools for next year, as well as supporting those that we select for this year, and we'll be serving as a technical assistance and training coordinator for all participating schools this year. In year 2, we're going to do all of that, plus we're going to build the training and technical assistance into existing Frisky conferences so that it just starts to become part of the work that we do. And then in year 3, we will take on almost all of the administrative functions for all of the academies here into the division. And by year 4, all of the Born Learning Academy responsibilities will become ours here at the division. All of the administrative functions, support, training, technical assistance, governance, and funding. Hopefully there'll be more funding than we know what to do with after year 4, but that will be basically embedded into the division. So what I would like to do is, it looks like we do have a little bit of time for questions. Like I said, I know I kind of went fast forward through all that information, but we could take some questions through chat, or Joe, if you want to facilitate that part of the process, that'd be great.
Sure, Heather, and thank you so much for that overview. That's really insightful, and that's a lot of great information and just a really good and thorough snapshot on really what the opportunities with Born Learning Academies represent over the next 4 years. So the baseline numbers of what Heather was looking at there is that at the end of 4 years, we're going to have a footprint, if you will, of Born Learning Academies that's going to spread across the Commonwealth of over 200 Born Learning Academies, and I just think it's really exciting. We do have a couple questions. If you'd like to ask a question via your phone, you can unmute your phone by pressing *6. Looks like we do have a couple folks over here with questions. One of the questions, Heather, I think I took a cut at it, but feel free to weigh in. Was other than support, what is the school district's role in the implementation of the program? And certainly my take on that is that school districts should work with really their entire community, all their community partners, not just with the family resource centers, but also with Head Start, with child care, with libraries, health departments, the judicial system, whomever else, to really reach out and recruit those families that most need and would most benefit from Born Learning Academies. Heather, do you have a take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you've kind of nailed it. We really want to make sure that, and we actually know too that some of our centers were hoping that maybe they could work with another center in their district to deliver an academy. And while we can't officially say yes or no to that, we would like to see, centers kind of work with their districts to make sure that they get more than just the parents in their local community, but maybe parents outside of that as well. So yeah, I think that would be great. And also we've actually seen in some situations that superintendents and other school district level staff were on implementation teams so that they really can get on the ground and do some of the work.
Excellent. We have another question here, Heather, and the question is, if I'm understanding correctly, if a district is participating in the Toyota Born Learning Academies, they do not apply for the Race to the Top funding.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to fund new Born Learning Academies. So if you are already receiving Toyota Born Learning funding, then you would not really be eligible for a Race to the Top funding.
Now, Heather, can another school in the same district that is not being supported by Toyota funding, so if it's in, for example, I'll use a county that I reside in, Grayson County. Grayson County has a Toyota Born Learning Academy in one of the elementary schools, but there's 4. Would the other schools be eligible to apply?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so just as a point of clarification, this is school-based. So if you already have a Born Learning Academy in your school, then you would not be considered for additional funding with this opportunity. But, for example, another school in your school district could possibly apply for, and it certainly could apply for, yes, but could receive funding via the new opportunity.
Yes, that's correct.
Another question here then is my understanding that the Born Learning Academy is an 8-month program. Is it possible to do the program on a weekly basis?
So I should have made this disclaimer before I started talking, but I am learning about Born Learning Academies as just in the last few months as we've been learning to implement this as well. But it is a 6-month program, and it is supposed to be monthly workshops. It could be that it might be considered an 8-month program because there's some training involved that does include additional months outside of the 6 for implementation. And it could also span over 8 months if for holidays and snow days and things like that. So that it is a 6-month program. That's the model. But I think there's maybe some flexibility for implementation. But to do it on a weekly basis is not recommended.
Excellent.
I can try to tackle the next one. Will
Sure.
the school districts be the fiscal agents for the funds, or will it be the division? We are working out with our Office of Policy and Budget how those funds will be distributed. It seems like we'll be adding an addendum to contracts with the school districts for existing centers. They'll receive additional funds to be distributed to the centers selected for the Born Learning Academies. So we will not be the fiscal agents. The funds are actually coming from the Governor's Office of Early Childhood.
Okay. Last call for any questions for Heather. Certainly you can email us questions afterwards. You can email those to any one of the folks on our staff. You see Heather's email up there on the up there on the screen. Looks like we do have a couple more folks typing in, so we'll give you just a minute. As we get ready to cut Heather loose here, I'm going to update you all that we have online about a few upcoming events and dates that I'm sure all of you are aware of, but we'll give just a few more minutes for questions, and then we'll move forward with a few updates and let you all get on your way in the afternoon here. So the last question that we'll take here is, if our community wishes to have a session during the day, is that permissible?
The model of the program is that it is an after-school program. So that is without having the United Way Born Learning folks on the call to say either direction. It would have to occur after the school day.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that you bring up there, Heather. I mean, if your school district is dedicated and you have demonstrated through your application process that you have the right pieces in place and that there are the right persons and the dedication and the capacity is there, I think you can probably enter into some sort of conversation once you've been awarded your grant about exactly how you're going to go about it, but also know that this is a curriculum. It is recommended, and the research that was done on it as it was being developed by Northern Kentucky University was pretty specific, and a lot of that is because we're looking for specific outcome as well. So, for example, I know that there's been a lot of folks who want to do a Born Learning Academy outside of a schoolhouse, outside of a school building. And that is not one of the things that is flexible within the Toyota Born Learning Academy, the Toyota brand of Born Learning Academy, because we want to have we want to give the families the benefit of their children attending the Born Learning Academy in the school that they're very likely to go to kindergarten. So there's a lot of benefits in that as far as those things. So it's a pretty prescriptive program, but we're looking for very specific results. Would that be fair, Heather?
Yeah, that would be fair. And
okay.
there actually will be, and I didn't say this, and so I apologize. Those centers that are selected to implement an academy will actually go through a pretty rigorous training, 2-day training, to really understand how to implement the curriculum. And I think that this is actually evidence of the partnership, is that because we're learning it as well here at the division, we will we're going to be relying on the United Way to help us really implement with fidelity to the model of the curriculum. So a lot of these kind of implementation questions can be worked out through the training process.
Sure. Looks like we have another question here. Who will be the fiscal agent and who will receive documentation?
I'm not really sure I understand that question well enough to answer it, so that might be something that could be emailed to me, and I can try to do a better job of answering it more thoroughly.
Well, we'll make a note of all the questions over here, Heather, and we'll get back to we'll ensure that everybody gets kind of a Q&A or a FAQ that can frequently asked questions out of this document. As a couple of the folks there are typing in a couple of last questions, I just want to bring up a few dates that are upcoming. Our next webinar will be June 12th. We do not have a topic for you yet, but certainly we will send that out to you very soon as far as when, what the topic of that conversation will be. And then finally, our Ready Kids Conference. I'd say finally, I want to say one last thing. So the Ready Kids Conference is our premier event. We've been, hopefully you've heard about it already. You're making plans to attend, but if you haven't, come join us at the Galt House in Louisville, June 16th through the 18th. We will have tracks of information that's just really robust learning opportunities for all early childhood educators. We want Head Start teachers there, child care professionals. We want preschool folks, early intervention, hands, first steps. It's kind of the big learning opportunity and a lot of exciting events going on during that week. So if you don't have that in your calendar already, then please write that in. I see Rachel has asked a question that really is a great segue for the information that I wanted to kind of talk with you about as well, and that is, what role will the CECC play in funding and the implementation of the program? The Race to the Top, through our Race to the Top proposal, many of you have heard kind of what the outline or the framework of our Race to the Top is. Community early childhood councils play a critical role on a number of different levels, and Toyota Born Learning Academies are one of them. We recognized and recognized throughout the proposal for Race to the Top that councils are our best way to get to the critical mass, if you will, of the folks in communities that are talking about early childhood issues. So when we're talking about Toyota Born Learning Academies, what we have seen with the current implementation, so with those counties that Heather showed you in the red and the blue, we've seen a wide array of capacity. Sometimes the Toyota Born Learning Academies may reach 14 or 15 families. Sometimes it's 40 or 50. So we want to see maximum number of families taking advantage of the Born Learning Academies, and the Community Early Childhood Councils are a perfect vessel in which to recruit and retain those families. Now, as with everything, we're not just asking you to do it, and then not providing any resources. As we move through this process, we're going to be developing tools and toolkits for you to understand when the Born Learning Academy that may be in your community is recruiting, how you can get to the table, how you can bring your families that you already have touch points with into the Born Learning Academies if they're eligible to come in and take part in the program. The program is really, really unique. Heather was part of a team, and I and myself were part of a team that recently went to Washington, and we got together with the other 20 states that have won Race to the Top Challenge, Early Learning Challenge grants. And we talked a lot about what are the components of your plan, what are the things that you're doing. And I will tell you that there's so much buzz around Toyota Born Learning Academies and Born Learning Academies in general, because it was really a unique way to engage families in understanding the importance of their child's early education. There was lots and lots of states that really raised their eyebrows and kind of said, hey, that sounds like a really good program. Can you tell us more about that? So we were very proud to be one of the first states to really make this a broad implementation, and we're really excited about the role of community early childhood councils because it all kind of weaves in together. The councils have been working for years to bring early childhood issues to the forefront of communities, and the Born Learning Academy now is just an incredible tool, an early intervention tool, if you will, almost, of how we can get to these families and give them really meaningful and fun information about how they can be a participant in and be an advocate for their child in their early education. So I was really pleased with the fact that Kentucky has moved forward with this, that we're dedicating it. At the end of 4 years, we're going to have 200 academies across the Commonwealth, and really thank the Division of Family Resource Centers for being willing to say, listen, this is something we want to see keep going beyond the 4 years. We want this to be something that sticks around for a long time. So with that, I'm going to close. I'm going to allow Heather, if you'd like to say any parting words, that would be great. We certainly thank you so much for your participation and really appreciate the information that you were able to impart on us today. Heather may have already ducked off. I think she had a prior commitment at 2:30. So with that, folks, as always, if you have any questions, comments, please call us, email us. We're here for you to be your partner in this. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting, and I hope everybody has a good afternoon. Thank you all for attending, and see you on June 12th.